Okay, excellent. So again, just welcome to Coaches Club. I'm Mark Burkitt from Not So Fay. I'm looking after the clubs, leagues and coach workforce development role now. So we've had a big change at the County FA. So we're picking up this element of the programme. I know will have been familiar with some of our other officers, with Fiona, etc., who's run the Coaches Club previously. So that's been passed over into my domain. So we look forward to kind of delivering you some workshops like this and hopefully something face-to-face in the not too distant future. In terms of this evening, we're really pleased to have a guest speaker and also a massive support from the FA's coach development team, they'll all introduce themselves this evening. The main speaker is obviously Andy Cook from Nottingham Forest Women. He's the head coach at the club there, of which he'll do a fantastic session and a fantastic introduction anyway in just a short period of time. I'm going to facilitate behind the scenes and dip in and dip out. So again, please feel free to drop those questions and raise those hands, and I'll link you in. So without further ado, pass you on to James and the coach development team to introduce themselves, and then across to Andy. James, over to you.
Thanks, Mark. Evening all, and yeah, thank you very much for attending this evening. And it's really, really good to be able to get some CPD going. So yeah, Mark's already said I'm James. I'm part of the coach development team in the East. My specific role is actually physical education. So I do a lot of stuff around working with teachers, universities, students, also the professional clubs and their community schemes. Really looking forward to this evening because I also manage a ladies team myself, Thackley Ladies. Been doing that for 4 or 5 years now. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing what Andy's got to say. I'm also joined by Adam, but I'll hand over to Adam and let him kind of introduce himself and his role.
Hi guys, yeah, so my name's Adam Dunleavy. I'm the Coach Development Officer over at the FA's Women's High Performance Centre. That's based across Trent University and University of Nottingham as well. So my role is to support coaches working within the female game, be that male or female coaches, right the way across from sort of grassroots and talent pathway up into the echelons of the women's pyramid as well. And I'm a coach as well, so I coach over at Notts County Women and oversee stuff over there. So yeah, just really looking forward to the conversation this evening. And yeah, we'll pass on to Andy now. And thanks very much for attending.
Right, well, just before we kick off, just wanted to kind of highlight, so the CPD, the session this evening is all going to be focused around how we play. And like I said, it's brilliant that Andy has joined us because hopefully he's going to give an insight into his coaching philosophy, how he approaches coaching and training, match days, what his beliefs and values are. And I suppose the best place to kind of kick off is asking Andy to kind of introduce himself and maybe a few highlights of his coaching career. So Andy, over to you.
Yeah, perfect. So can we all see that? Yeah, James.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. So obviously, welcome everyone. Hope you get something from this and take something away. My details are there if anyone wants to get in touch with me. By the way, obviously Twitter and Instagram, and then my email there as well. If anyone wants to get in touch with anything and anything that you think of tonight. And I can't promise this, but I'd hope that we have no breakout rooms. So I hope, James, there's no breakout rooms or anything like that, because I'm not a big fan of those. So yeah, we'll hopefully just crack on. But yeah, obviously the way that it's going to work, I think James had sent me a few questions, and then I'm just going to answer them through this PowerPoint, and then obviously I think James, Adam will chip in with some questions, and if you have any questions yourselves, obviously just put them in the chat box and we'll get them answered, and hopefully you'll, like I said, take something from it. So a couple of highlights of my coaching career. It's sort of the one I'm most proud of is kind of 10 years from level 1 to my A license. It wasn't necessarily a goal to achieve it within 10 years. It just kind of it happened that way. But one of the biggest things for me that I've gained is the fact that once I passed that, and I don't think this is any correlation, but once I passed my A license, I learned more in the game, and I think it's probably just due to the fact that the nature of the roles and things that kind of I took up. At one point was working at Arsenal, and that was a very very much that this is what an elite football looks like. With some of the players that were there at the time, Steph Horton, Jen Beattie, Laura Harvey was the manager of Arsenal Women at the time, and it was really much, very much, this is the elite side of the game. After that, moved to the FA, where I worked alongside James in a different county, but worked alongside James as a skills coach. And for me, that was the position. If I'm honest, it was more of a personal reason to move back with the FA and to move back into the northeast of England. But the role itself, the years that I had with the FA was brilliant in regards to, the organisation of sessions, the management within sessions themselves, really helped me in terms of just how you have to work. You potentially have got 31 kids in a classroom or in a sports hall. Sorry. There's a piano in one corner, the Christmas tree in the other corner, and you've got to work in that 45-50 minute session to get out passing or dribbling or shooting, whatever it might be, and to come up with a medium term plan of 6 to 8 weeks to work alongside a teacher who does this day to day for their lives. We going in there doing a little bit of PE with primary school kids was a real eye opener. So I really got a lot from that. Went into Oxford United, again as a women's head coach. It was the first full-time role in regards to just working with a senior setup, and it was obviously my first time as a head coach. And been full-time, I think the biggest thing that came out of that, it doesn't make it easy. I kind of went in there and thought, well, full-time role, easy. You've got what you wanted, Andy. Let's go and crack on. And ultimately, it wasn't that. There was a lot that goes on behind the scenes. A lot of politics, a lot of things that happen. I was there and kind of overseen the fact that Oxford left, as it was WSL2 at the time, and was very much the stuff that was going on behind the scenes at the club, which obviously people usually aren't privy to. So all of these things were a huge learning curve for me at that point. Came back to the northeast again, moved and worked with Sunderland within the boys' academy there, and that for me was just a real insight into the standards and mindsets that elite footballers need. And the biggest thing that I've got there from that was it's very much a marathon. These boys were training 4 times a week. They had a game on a weekend, and they're 13, 14-year-old, and ultimately 1 or 2 of them is possibly not even they're possibly going to get a contract at 16. So it was just a real eye opener in regards to the quality that you need, the standards and the mindset you need to play at a elite level. And then currently I'm now at Nottingham Forest and getting to speak to you guys here. So I don't know if there's anything off the back of that, James, Adam.
No, I think that's great. That's great. I suppose, and by the way, yes, it was great to work alongside you too, by the way, in in those skills days. I remember them. But yeah, I suppose what I'd like to do is start off by kind of getting into the underpinnings of your coaching. What is it that you believe in? What are your values? What drives you? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, and so obviously my approach to coaching, I think this is kind of the last 2 years at Nottingham has been a real. This has been the biggest thing that I've constantly tried to preach to the players, that football's just a game, but we have to find ways of winning. And from the back of that, the values that underpin the coaching that I have and that we have now at Nottingham Forest is these 5 things. So it's not necessarily there's no evidence behind these. It's just experiences that I've gained over the background that I've just kind of had a brief look at. But these are the 5 things that for me currently are what I'm working on. I think that's probably going to change, and it will change no doubt over the next 10, 15 years. But right now, these are the 5 things. And ask why, trust the process, find solutions, never give up, and then love every second. And I think there's something that I always go back to and always mention to the players as well, is if they don't understand anything, just make sure that you ask. There's no daft questions. Sometimes there's daft times or the stupid times to ask you a question, which no doubt everyone will have been involved in when you're just about to, start a session after explaining everything and then going through it, and someone asks a question that's already been answered and those kind of things. But ultimately, I don't think there's any daft questions. Again, trust the process. You've got to trust the players, and you've got to trust the staff that you work with. And that's something that I've again learned over my time is, that if you've got good people around you, and even if you don't have good people around you, ultimately you've got to try and get to work with them. So you've got to trust it at some point. So you've got to trust what's happening in front of you. If that isn't working, or even if it is, that moves on to the third one, which is finding solutions. And the biggest gripe for me that I have I suppose in life at the moment, really with a lot of things that go on in the world, is don't mourn. Find a way to achieve and really work around what you've got and how, what have you been dealt, what are the cards that have been dealt to you, where the chips fall, and all those kind of, sayings and things that you want to put. But ultimately, you've got to find a solution to the problem. And then obviously if you do that, never give up. So if you've done that and you keep moving forward, you could be a session and things aren't going quite right. You can change it, not a problem. That's finding a solution, but don't give up on it. Don't just say, well, this is it, and walk on in. And, that's something for me that's huge with the players and the staff. And then ultimately love every second. We're fortunate to be able to go and coach. And from next Monday, we're fortunate that the vaccine's rolled out and we can go and coach again. In a strange time at the moment, but yeah, I think now more than ever, you've got to go out and make sure that you love every second. So they're the 5 sort of values that underpin the coaching that we have. And then at Nottingham Forest, this is the kind of pyramid, if you like, that we have in regards to where we want players to be. And on the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see it says inspirational, relatable, and approachable. And they're the 3 sort of elements we want all players to have at Nottingham Forest. So if a player's coming in or a player's coming through the system as it is there, we'd like them to be those 3 things. And I think the picture there is Katie Middleton at the top. And for someone that is all those 3 things, I think she sums that up in terms of the football club. She's been, I think, through all of these ranks. And then, the beginning of the season, I spoke to her, and the story with Katie this season was we brought a few players in. We made the squad bigger, and in terms of the quality, we increased that. And I spoke to Katie saying that potentially this might not be her season. But if anyone's seen the fixtures that we had just before Christmas, she was in and around every squad. And she's never sort of put a foot wrong. She's kind of took that advice and just went, right, I'll prove you wrong. Which for me is again, just sums up that top one there of inspirational. On the left-hand side, this is just kind of what we see within the club that we want to happen in regards to those particular age groups. So the first, obviously, the bottom 3, if you like, to juniors is very much play. And then the juniors, once you get into kind of under 13, 14, 15, it becomes a little bit of performance. So how are the girls playing? How does it look individually? What is a player doing? The RTC, same thing, performance and play. Under 12s, can they play? Can they kind of get on the ball? Can they do what they need to do? Under 14s, it becomes a little bit more performance. They've got a set formation. This is what we want from them. This is what we want to try and do. And then once you get to 16s, especially if they're playing in the Youth Cup and things like that, it becomes results. So they've got a little bit of balance of everything. Then we've got the 3 senior teams that we have, the development team, the reserve team, and the first team. And again, the development team and reserves is performance and results, because ultimately the development team is that bridge between the junior, the RTC, and potentially the reserves or first team, depending on a player's trajectory. The reserve team is very much that real in between, and having worked as a reserve team manager, I don't think there's much. Sometimes there's no more difficult job in football in regards to the first team coach says you've got these 4 players and they need to play 90 minutes, 60 minutes and half, and the first half, let's say, and you've got a team ready, but that's what's happening because the first team are doing that. They're coming from the injured players coming back. So they've got to be that balance for the reserve team. And obviously the first team, we're there for results. If we're not getting results, I would imagine I would have to stop wearing this badge and, go and try and find work somewhere else. So it's kind of, it works nicely up the pyramid like that.
Just on that, so that pyramid there, how involved have you been, like right up and down that? So obviously you're in the first team, but how much dedication do you give to the other levels?
Being honest, not enough in the first 2 years of the job. I think there was this virus that's currently going around the world that hasn't helped things in the last sort of year, but ultimately, that's just a joke. Yeah, I think if that wasn't here, I'd like to think I would have done more. But once we kind of that first year I was involved in Nottingham, things were going well. We got to March, and we were on a really good trajectory. But then obviously the pandemic hit, and things were set in motion that I was going to go down and take some sessions at the juniors, do some stuff with the RTC. There wasn't anything in regards to my involvement with the community in schools and development centres, but Nottingham Forest has a fantastic community scheme there that I'm constantly in conversations with Graham Moran about. So I know what goes on up and down this pyramid, but I'm gonna do what everybody does at the moment and blame the virus and say that it's because of that I haven't been involved as much. But the reserves and the development team and the guys that are involved with that, that I'm there every night and we're working kind of closely together. And I think it's one of those. I think I do enough. Probably could do a little bit more with those guys as well. But equally, I think I'm always conscious of being sort of too overbearing. I like people to have the freedom to do their own work. So yeah, I'd say hopefully, if everything goes well this season, this will be the one where things will really kick off, because we'll be there for a lot longer, and obviously the fact that we will hopefully get a season uninterrupted this year. So yeah, cool. Hopefully that answers that.
Yeah, no, brilliant.
And then obviously off the back of that, we've got the sort of game model, if you like, or philosophy that again we kind of talk about within coaching and things. So at Nottingham Forest, or my own one that I brought to Nottingham Forest at the moment, and probably, I mean, they might keep this if I ever leave or if I ever get sacked, but they might not. They might think it was absolutely rubbish if I get sacked. So this is what I've got at the moment. So these are the 4 things for me. Want players to play with consistency, want them to do it intelligently during training and games. So again, that goes back to the values. So again, those 5 principles, those 5 values, can they link to being, consistent, and intelligent with those? And then obviously on the footballing side, nice and simple, we want people to be tactically flexible. And we'll see from some of the clips I've got. This season we played with a back 3. Last season we played with a back 4. So we like to try and change and try and respond to what the players have, but ultimately, if you like, that's the game model, the philosophy. You could probably even argue that it's a mission statement in regards to what we want to see, or how I want to see the players to work and react on the pitch.
Just on that one then, Andy, just relating back to your game model and philosophy, how important is it to get the buy-in of the players, staff and everybody to be sort of working to that one vision, and how much sort of ownership do you allow the players to have within that process?
So in regards to the players then, Adam, do you mean in terms of is this from them or more? Just explain that a little bit more in terms of the ownership.
Yeah, so I suppose in terms of setting the culture at the club, in terms, did the players have buy-in in terms of the input into what that culture looks like and what the standards are and how they expect to see them come across in training and then into match days?
Yeah. Tell you what, let me see if I've got it on here. I can show you something else if I've got it on here, if I can get that up. So in terms of the buy-in, anyone seen Football Manager there? It's been locked down. Managed to get to Darlington to League One, if anyone's interested. Right, where we are. Do you know what? I might not be able to find it just like that. So I'll leave it. Basically, what I was going to show you, we have, in terms of the buy-in from the players and the ownership, both seasons that I've been here, I've created a pyramid. Well, I haven't created a pyramid. I've explained what the pyramid is. So it's similar to this, but at the top of the pyramid, I wanted one word from the player. So every player went through this process. So I wanted one word that kind of wasn't at the top of the pyramid. It was anywhere in the pyramid. So it was one particular word that they feel sums up the team. So we didn't do this at the start of the season. Both last season, this season, we did it around about middle to end of September. And obviously the work with the players, that got to know them a little bit more. And some of the players came up with some great different words that would come up with. They then sent those words in. And then what I did is I then put all the words into a pyramid itself. So we had, I think there was like 5 at the bottom, 4, 3, 2, and then 1, and it kind of went up, obviously like pyramid. And then their word, they didn't have to give us what that particular word, like the thesaurus answer for that word was. They had to tell us what the meaning of that word was. So on the top corner of the picture that they had all the words in the pyramid, and then their value or their reason for that word was in the top corner, and then their word was highlighted and made it red. All the other words were white, and so they had that little word within the pyramid, and obviously the words were put in certain positions in correlation to kind of how we've seen it to the top. And I think this year's word at the top was success. I think last year's word was resilience. So the other thing that we got from it was just interesting as staff when we looked at it was, in terms of, like you say, ownership, was just how the players or who came back with certain words was one. And then when I put the words in, obviously a certain order, it was then looking at that to kind of see, right, where do the words best fit? And kind of there was no sort of rationale behind it. Again, it was just me looking through the words in the document and kind of going, right, this one fits here because it links to that word, and that word links to this word, and things like that. So I'll try and get it. Once we get back, I'll see if we can get it. But I'm just obviously aware that I've got documents on there that people I might not be able to show people, and obviously it's getting recorded. So if I stay on too long, you'll end up seeing my Football Manager save. So we don't want that. But yeah, in terms of the ownership for the players, that was something that we've done both years, and that's had a really nice buy-in. And then the way that we use that is we put it above their hanger or their hanger, their little peg before every game. So they've got that behind that, and then obviously we set the changing room up. So that's kind of how we own that in regards to the ownership of the values or the philosophy, if you like. What was the other question? Sorry, because I rambled there.
No, I think that's a solid answer there. So yeah, just a really good insight in terms of sort of building that mentality of the squad and the fact that all of the players and staff sort of take responsibility for those standards, really. So no, it was fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, no, yeah. In regards to the staff, I think again I've been fortunate that the staff here at Nottingham Forest have been fantastic. All the guys and girls and stuff that we work with are just brilliant. Medical and everyone I've knocked with, there's been absolutely no problems. And then this season we recruited Michael Anderson from Leicester City as well, and he's been great as well. But I've been really fortunate with that, to be fair. So moving on in terms of the principles of play that we've got. So the principles of play, as you see from the little sort of sentence there, it's a set of match play principles that we want to adopt in any of the 4 phases. So these 4 phases, the first video that you're going to see is the defensive phase, delaying the attack. And then obviously the build-up plays, obviously when we're in possession. So these are things that we want to try and get through that are linked to the values, really, and linked to kind of how we want to do. But I'm very sort of cautious of kind of, for me, working on principles rather than patterns. So in terms of defending, the first thing that is, as the word is there, we want to delay the attack, and we want to deny the space in behind. So again, that's more of a principle because that can happen in very different ways. If we go through a pattern, this is my own personal opinion, sometimes patterns can then, it doesn't allow any kind of extra thinking for the player. It's kind of, right, this is the pattern we're working on, that's it. And if it doesn't work, well, it's your fault because you're the coach. And I'm not trying to put the blame back on the players from what I've just said there, but for me, it just adds a little bit of deeper understanding, adds again to the philosophy and the game model of being tactically flexible, being intelligent and consistent with what we're doing. So again, it's trying to have a little look at that. So this is the first one. This is delaying the attack. So this is the game against Sunderland. So we give the ball away halfway. Georgia falls over and kind of chucks the towel in. But then Sophie Tudor delays the attack, shows her away from goal, holds up, and then we get the cavalry back and we hold it up, get ourselves in position. And the only thing that we're a little bit disappointed in is the fact that I think eventually Sunderland do get a cross in. So again, we're now set, we're now defending, we've delayed the attack enough that we sent them out wide, balls come in, and then Asia's come to collect. So, in terms of that, there's probably a couple of bits that you could go in there and analyse and coach this, that, and the other, but ultimately, delaying the attack. That what Sophie did there was exactly what we've been working on, what we've been looking at throughout the pre-season in regards to delaying the attack. We want to slow them down and try and wait for the cavalry to come back. Unless Georgia does that and throws it in. She won't mind me saying that because, yeah, it'll be fine. But, we always try and that's one of the things we want to do. And if we can't delay the attack, then it's just, can we deny the space or can we force them wide? And then this one is build up. So this is, again, starts from Asia in goal, goes out to Charlotte Greengrass. And then this is us playing against Loughborough. And it's just very much in terms of where we are this season. I think at this point, we had changed to a back four because Loughborough had played such a low block. But we played out and round and then gone down the left-hand side. Katie with a little bit of skill plays it over to Lucy Johnson. And then if you just watch Roz's movement to the back post, and then a great header from her. So again, in regards to that, the players allow for a lot of this because they're such good footballers. So that's the build-up play that we're looking for when we're playing against a team that is playing such a low defensive line like Loughborough were. Can we play into those areas? Can we try and go through the middle? If not, can we try and go down the wings? And we want to, again, be tactically flexible. We want to try and attack, in lots of different ways, not just kind of, right, we're going to go through the middle. So that one, again, we were really happy with loads of different elements. And one of the ones at the end there with Roz and a movement, something that we're constantly trying to sort of just work on her with, which was great to see. And again, a girl that had only just come in the summer. So it was nice to get that. So there are two areas in regards to defensively and in possession what we're looking for. From the principles, we're then obviously looking at formations in terms of the principles that we've just worked on. How does that then react to a formation? So it could be a wrote on there a 4-3-3 or a 4-4-2. And this season, as you can see from the numbers down there, we played with a back three this year. And again, the reason for a back three, that someone may ask the question of why was it a back three? It was because of the players we recruited. We recruited, we had Olivia Cook and Lindsay Harkin, who were great centre backs, and then we recruited Charlotte Greengrass, who's another good centre half. And so we made the decision to go with the back three. And then the players that we had on the wings in regards to Lucy Johnson, who's now gone to America, Hayley James, who had come in from Leicester, and a couple of others like Laura Jane O'Neill and Georgia Hewitt, really good wing backs and full backs as well. So we had options, and that was why we went to a back three this year. So in regards to what you've just seen in the principles of play, this is kind of, for me, looking at how the formations can link to that. So this is again against Loughborough. So we start, and again, we're playing out. This is in the first half, obviously, because we flipped. But you can see it was tough to try and go through the middle because of the way Loughborough set up. So that's Lindsay as our centre half. This is Lucy, the left centre half on this particular game. We've managed to play into a bit of a gap that they've opened up for us. And then this is just a cross and a finish. So again, 2 crosses and finish from that. But I think that was kind of, and a great goal from Georgia. That was the key to the game, really. Loughborough were so condensed. I think if we can we just show that one again? Yeah, Loughborough was so condensed against us, as you can see from that. When Lucy plays into Sid, there's the whole of their team in that area of the field. So if this winger here, I don't know her name, but if she was in front of Sid here, we would have had to go down the wing. But we've managed to find the pocket and play in. But ultimately, that was the way that we found success against Loughborough, was trying to get the ball in and out to get round the press. Not to get round the press, to get round the block. And then this is against Stoke. So again, back three again. Lucy again is playing left-hand side of the three. Poor pass and we get a little bit lucky. But ultimately, this was the first time that both wing-backs managed to get into attacking positions and work that game. So George has pressed the ball well. Again, good save from the keeper, but Roz has followed up and we managed to score. But in regards to that, it's just the start up here that we're playing out. As you can see, Stoke have gone for kind of a medium press. They're not right on us on top of our box, but they've gone for kind of a medium press. And then we've probably got to do better with there. But when we get into here, at that point there, Georgia is high and wide, which we've been asking her for the whole of the game. And I think this is about 30 minutes in when we score. At that point, Georgia, that was the first time Georgia had sort of got over the halfway line. So she was playing back here, and obviously in a 3-5-2 or a 3-3-3-4 as it looks in this. We needed it to be high because that's going to push their fullback back. And then obviously Haley goes to play the ball. Bex and Roger and short. G's on a run. So it was the first time in that particular game when we managed to get that little bit of success. And then I think if we play it on, so that was to get us to 1-1. And then this is a defensive one in regards to a bit of a press and a sprint. But Roz has gone to close down. So at this point here, I knew it would do that. Let's play this one. We were here, weren't we? Yeah. So we got a bit of a press. So the centre half had just gone out. Roz is marking. Georgia is over this side, and we are literally player for player. So we were really aggressive in that game. That's what we wanted from the start. It took us 30 minutes to get into our rhythm, but within 20 seconds, we managed to do this and go 2-1 up. So nice early win, press, and then a goal. Oh my God, I sound like an American. No disrespect to any Americans, by the way. I know we have to do that nowadays. So it was, again, the formation can kind of help or hinder in regards to what we want from the principals. And then obviously, I've mentioned this, players' ability helps a lot. If you've got good footballers, you're probably going to win the game. And if their attitude's right, the mindset's right, you've got a hell of a chance of winning the game. So this is in attack in the same game with Stoke. This is in the second half, so obviously we're defending the lead. But this is where Charlotte Greengrass came into her own, picks it up with an interception, through ball, and then Bex Rayner, who's now signed for Sheffield United, should have always been playing Championship. God knows how we managed to get her. Went and done that and rolled it past the keeper to make it 3-1 at the time. Brilliant celebration as well. But again, it's always going to help when you've got good footballers. So steps in. Arguably, the forward needs to do more from Stoke, but it is what it is. We're not Stoke coaches. Bex rolls the keeper and then pulls it in. So again, players' ability is always going to help. So again, it allows us to look at these things and look at formations and stuff when you've got players that can do that. If Bex was here, I'd say I just played that again for a celebration. And then this is defensively. So against Derby, at home, we wanted to be really aggressive. Obviously, local game, local Derby, massive for the people of Nottingham and Nottingham Forest when we're playing Derby. So we're really aggressive with that. So you can see from the setup there, Charlotte Greengrass here is our right centre-back. Left centre-back is Lucy Johnson. And then we've got 1, 2, I think you can see my cursor, I would imagine. And then sitting here is the 3 centre midfielders, our right wing back, and then 2 forwards. So Lindsay is going in here as our centre half. And it was just, can we go and press? Can we be aggressive? So she followed the girl in. High press, wins it. Little nick, and now we're on the attack on the edge of their box. Did we end up getting a shot away across? In the box. But that was something that we wanted again in regards to the defending within that particular game. And we got it brilliantly. But again, the player's ability leads to that. Lindsay Harkin has played youth international football, has played at Doncaster Rovers Bells. So she knows how to play the game, and ultimately, it allows for us to be able to do those kind of things that we've just spoke about.
Andy, so you talk about obviously having the players capable of doing, what you want. If you didn't have those players, do your principles stay the same?
Yeah, the principles stay the same. I think I was going to say problem. That's harsh. I suppose the difference comes in that if we haven't got Bex Rayner, which we don't have Bex Rayner now, we can't be looking at Bex Rayner and thinking, right, she's going to get the ball, roll it around the keeper and score, or she's going to pick it up like she did in the first half, edge of the box and put one in the bottom corner. So then you've got to then just find different ways of working within the player's ability. And I think I say it a little bit later on in one of the slides. One of the biggest points is coach the players that are in front of you. I'm fortunate enough to work with this group of people and this group of players that, they allow for things like this. And then you kind of get the plaudits at the weekend and this and the other. But ultimately, the players go and do it. So, when you're dealing with, let's say, a junior club or an RTC or a grassroots team, and we've all been there, and we're working here now at Nottingham Forest, but I've been there with Borough Rangers up here in the northeast, or James yourself, like at the skills program, working with a group of year 2s, and you're still having to work with what you've got. You've just got to work with the group that's in front of you. And I don't think that the principles change. It's just the potential outcome. You just have to change that outcome. And I think ultimately that's where we are right now, and where I'm at right now is that I'm fortunate enough to work at a football club that's very forward thinking within the women's program. They understand the I suppose the background of what needs to happen to progress, and yeah, we're fortunate to work with that. But I wouldn't say that I would change my principles. I think that then you would need players to step up, and you would need players to kind of really produce. But I'm talking about the senior football. If we're talking about junior football or RTCs or grassroots, whatever it is, whichever level it is in regards to probably below under 18, I think it doesn't matter. You've got to put players in positions and see if they do it, or see if they fail. And if they fail, it doesn't matter, because then it's just a learning experience. Unfortunately, at this level, senior football, if we fail, like I keep saying, people are out of a job. So it's kind of the fail has to kind of be so minimal that you've got to try and do things that potentially, they go against, maybe when you've asked there about the principles, maybe they go against the principles, but that might only be for a few minutes in the game. So has there been games this season where we've tried to close games off? Yes, we were 3-1 up against Stoke. We went back to a 4-2-3-1 at one point. I think actually in that clip there where Charlotte wins it, went back to a 4-2-3-1. It was very much close ranks. If we were getting it, we wanted to kind of play the space and play in behind because they were pressing on us. Do we really work on that? Not really, but it was the game and it was what was in front of us. So I think more so, I would think I'd change my principles more so now at senior football than I probably would if I was coaching an under-18s team or an under-16s team, because doesn't matter if I win or lose. It doesn't matter if the players win or lose. Yes, I care, and yes, they care, but ultimately it doesn't matter because it's youth football. They're learning the game. They're learning what works, what doesn't work. If a girl did what Bex did there, rolled it over a foot, keeper goes one way, she goes the other, puts it in, we think, oh, brilliant. If she does it and she fails, it doesn't mean she's brilliant. It's just kind of going, right, what do you need to do next time then? So I think it's hopefully that answers it a little bit.
Yeah.
I suppose then.
Sorry, go on, Adam.
No, I was going to say in terms of just something I put in the chat. So like you say, at senior, at a performance level, obviously results are that much more important. Like you say, sort of jobs are at stake and there's a perimeter of success that needs to be achieved. So as a coach in that environment, in order for players to be, as you say, sort of tactically flexible, how important do you think it is then that in those junior age groups where development is key, that players are encouraged to be creative, that they're encouraged to find solutions to problems?
Oh, hugely. I think it's probably one of the hardest things to do, because we all want to go home on a Sunday or a Saturday or whenever our games are, and we want to, tell the wife and the kids and the boyfriends and the girlfriends and the dogs and the aunties and the mothers that our team won. But as coaches, it really, 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 and I can't stress this enough, it does not matter, because when the sun goes down, the next morning is going to come round, the sun will rise, and no one will care anymore. So you've just got to kind of, it's almost like the better question would be, who played well in the game? What did they do that stood out? And that can be obviously defensively or attacking. I think they're the two main points for me. And I think if I was to go back into the junior ranks and work within an RTC or an academy, I suppose the year that I had at Sunderland was huge for that. The under-13 boys were brilliant at Sunderland. They ended up winning the national cup. I'd moved to Nottingham before I got to see the end of that, but they were an unbelievable group of players. But ultimately, all that Sunderland were bothered about was, were they playing in a 4-4-2 diamond at under-13s? And then at under-14s, was it a 4-3-3 with one defensive midfielder? That was it. Could they play in those two situations? I'm making it sound a lot simpler for a Category 1 academy, and believe me, it was a lot more complicated than that. I'm trying to sort of simplify it in regards to just telling the story now. And they played the whole season, the under-13s, as a 4-4-2 diamond. They'd never played 4-4-2 diamond before, but that was the year that they were playing it. Did we change, and did we move from 4-4-2 diamond? Yes, but I'd say 90% of the games started and finished with 4-4-2 diamond. When they played up, some of the boys played up with the 14s. They were playing 4-3-3, like we said, and then some of the boys played down, and they were playing a different formation. I think it's the same, and that has to happen right throughout the youth ranks. There has to be that kind of trial and error, just see what works. Because ultimately, when they come to the first team of wherever it might be, whether it be Nottingham or whether it be yourselves at Notts County, or whether it be anywhere else in the country, you could go down Arsenal or up here, Middlesbrough, Newcastle. I think Becky Langley's on the call. You can, you could be anywhere. And ultimately, we want players, and all coaches want players at senior level that can play in a number of different roles, that can do it really well. But if there's someone that stands out in a particular position, especially when they get into 14, 15, 16, 17, perfect. And that's probably come from an understanding of different roles when they were 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, whatever it is. So I think it's key and crucial. And ultimately, it goes back to the first sort of statement of football's just a game. That's all it is. It's just a game. It's like playing Monopoly or Football Manager for me at the moment, but it's just a game. You've got to try and win it. You've got to try and find a way to win, I suppose. And that doesn't matter whether you're 7 years old or, 33 or, 16. It doesn't matter. You've just got to try and find a way to win.
Yeah, and I think sort of promoting that psychological safety in terms of players feeling comfortable to make mistakes when they're trying to learn things at those younger age groups. It's really, really important to emphasise how important that is for players to sort of see challenge and setback as a real positive opportunity and a challenge to learn new things, as opposed to it being spun in a negative way, like you say, that sort of focuses on the defeat or focuses on the result. We want to really sort of develop and breed footballers of the future. They're really creative and see challenges in things as opposed to negatives, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just one bit on that is I think that's crucial. Just I suppose for nowadays in life, football as a sport. If you just look at football, in order to be successful, the other team has to fail. And in our league, there's 12 teams. 11 teams fail because, let's be fair, we all want to win the league, I would imagine. So 11 teams fail. So every year, failure is a huge part of football. Failure is a huge part of life. And ultimately, it's how you frame it. If your body language is like, constantly, especially with kids. I mean, I've got a couple of kids myself, and you just can't do it because it's not teaching anything. Ultimately, it's asking questions, trying to find out how they feel, trying to find out emotionally what's happening, because everyone's different within that. So I think that's a huge point, Adam, to be fair.
So how's your coaching changed over the years?
So I think I had to throw this one in because of the great man's birthday yesterday. I think it's changed massively basically because of people. It's all about people, and Brian Clough in this quote says that players lose your games. I think it's people, players, people, whatever, however you want to frame it. It's not tactics. We've spoke about tactics. We've spoke about principles there. But if that group of players that I work with, that we work with at Nottingham Forest, if they don't like me, or they don't like a member of staff, or they don't like something about the club, they'll find a way to sort of upset the apple cart. Whether they mean to do it or not, that doesn't matter. It's just the way that life is. And I think that's one of the biggest things in life that I've found, and over my time in coaching and through different experiences. It's all about people, how you're treated, how you're treated, how you want to be treated, how you would treat others, how you see other people treating each other, and are people being held accountable? I think that's one of the biggest things that everyone wants to see, is there some sort of accountability. So I think that's the biggest thing for me is regardless of what it is, football or life, it's all about people. And the three examples I've got for that. The first one that I ever sort of came across with, and I didn't really think about it until I was kind of going through this, really, was Beth Mead. So Beth was a fantastic player, and even at she's at Arsenal now, early 20s. So when she was at Middlesbrough with ourselves, under 14s, under 16s, she was scoring goals for fun, and her dad would push her to do a little bit extra. She would stay behind and do extra shooting and extra sessions and stuff like that. And to be fair, Beth, was chomping at the bit to do it. Beth had a real, and I think she's wrote about it recently in an article for Arsenal. She had a real sort of issue with kind of staying in a comfort zone. And when she was 16, she had the chance to go and play at Sunderland, or she could go to she could go to Sunderland, or she could stay at Middlesbrough where we were. And this was the first time for myself where it was kind of, do I put the interests of the centre of excellence at the time, or above what I believe, or do I kind of go, tell you what, this is what I believe in, and I'm going to speak to Richard, Beth's dad, and say, look, this is what I think, and kind of put my two penneth. And it was very much that. I just said to Beth, and I said to her family, you need to go to Sunderland. She was probably going to go. I'm not standing here to say that I was the reason she went to Sunderland, because her dad knew what was best for her as well. But ultimately she had to go, because she was so good at 16. She had to go and push herself, and she had to kind of find those little ways to kind of go, oh, it's not as easy as it is at 16. So she went to Sunderland, and she's flying now at Arsenal. So that was the first kind of time for me where there was something in regards to dealing with people and kind of what you say can matter. The other one was Arsenal. I moved to Arsenal just after that time with Beth and Middlesbrough Centre of Excellence, and I thought that I knew what an elite player was, because I'd obviously just worked with Beth Mead. I thought, I know what an elite player is, not a problem. But I didn't know what actually elite was. You know, the mindset, the attitude, the application, and not just from sort of the first team players like Jane Ludlow at the time, or Steph Horton and people like that. It was from like the kids, like 10, 11, 12-year-old girls. One of the girls is now playing for us, actually, Sydney Naylor, and was in the under 13s, 14s, I think, when I was there. And oh my, just the application that they put into to wanting to be the best is just unbelievable. But I think the other side of the coin is with Arsenal is they get the best players in and around London, go and trial for them. So you have to be the best of the best to get into that centre of excellence. And then once you're there, well, you've got to fight everyone off to get there. So it was more the mindset and the culture of that. And I think, again, in regards to seeing it from like people, was the best example I can give you is Leah Williamson. So I was under 17s head coach at Arsenal and reserve manager. Leah Williamson was 14, 15, and she was training up with us at the under 17s when she was that old. And she didn't just come and train and kind of sit at the back. She came and was like, right, I'm here. What do you want me to do? And she was one of the best players. And again, like I say, that mindset and the culture. And again, Leah Williamson's doing great things now with Arsenal and playing for England. And then the other side of it, which is a little bit more of a negative one, really, is creative differences, is I think the politically correct way of putting it, at Durham. So I was at Durham, helped Lee and Dawn and everyone at the club sort of set up Lee and Dawn had done a fantastic job previous to me. I'm not trying to take credit for that, but the set up the WSL side in regards to what we needed to go forward into the WSL2 at the time. Once we got into it and we got into the license, there was just a little bit of creative differences. Myself and Lee didn't see eye to eye in regards to, again, how things need to run and operate, which is fine, and it's his jurisdiction to do it as general manager. And that was the first time that I thought to myself, wow, I really need to manage up over. I can't just think about the players underneath me. As like, I'm head coach, these are the players, that's all I need to think about. There's also people here that you need to think about and manage. And that was the first time that, again, this is, at the time, I didn't think this, but looking back and reflecting, it was just kind of, wow, you need to manage up. And again, it just comes down to people. How do I speak to Lee? How did Lee speak to me at the time? And things like that. I've seen him since. When we were at Oxford, I played against Durham and we spoke and we're fine and things like that. But yeah, it wasn't a great time for myself then. But again, it's just, like we've just said with Adam there, not everything's hunky dory and not everything's happy. So, you're going to have failures, and it's just how you bounce back and you keep trying to, move forward, really. So they're the three examples that I've got that kind of stand out in regards to everything comes down to people. This one, to kind of sum all this up, this came from a course I was on last summer, and hopefully this is quite good and everyone will take something from it. So your attitude goes up and down the circle. Your ability or your skill goes across the circle as you're looking. So you could be an RD. So an RD is a rough diamond. So if you're an RD, if you're a rough diamond, if your attitude's good, you're already obviously high and you're at the top sort of quarter. If your attitude's good and your ability and skill matches it, you'll move across and you become a gem. Now, if you are a rough diamond on this side, though, and your attitude drops, your ability and skills good. Well, it's getting better, but it could be better because obviously it's down this side of the screen. If it drops off, if your attitude drops off, you become a chocolate teapot because you're useless. Your attitude isn't great. Now, if you are a chocolate teapot, there's one thing that you can change. Your ability and skill might change over time in regards to you get a little bit older, you're a little bit younger, and you get a bit better. But ultimately, if you change your attitude, you become a rough diamond or a gem, depending on where your ability or skill is at the time. And again, this can happen. This is anywhere in life. If you're a gem and your ability and skill is great and your attitude's fantastic, no one has to worry about you. But instantly, if your attitude drops, you then become a dinosaur, or I'll let you fill in the stars. Now, if you are one of those, again, your ability and skill's fantastic. So everyone thinks, what a player you are. But your attitude is awful. Everyone thinks, God, she's a bit of a... And we don't really want to be around those people. So you need to change one thing about you. And that's your attitude. If you change your attitude, you'd become a gem again. And when I seen this for me was just so eye-opening, because you can put it to any walk of life. You can put it to your family. You can put it to the football team you're in. You can put it to your work, office, whatever it is. You will know someone that is a rough diamond, someone that's a gem, someone that's a chocolate teapot, and there's definitely someone that's a dinosaur. So, that's when I've seen this for me was just summed up everything that I've just tried to talk about in regards to it. It all comes down to people. And ultimately, there's only one person that can change someone's attitude, and that's the person themselves, which goes back to the point we're kind of making, really, of that.
Have your players seen that then, I'm assuming, yeah?
Yeah, that was the first thing. That on the first day at Nottingham Forest, that was the first thing I presented about, are you a rough diamond or are you a gem? And hopefully, like, it got there a couple of little giggles and a couple of little laughs and stuff. But when I saw it, I really loved it, and I've kind of used it as much as I can, because I think it's just a great visual of kind of where you are. And ultimately, it comes down to you. Your attitude is the thing that decides how good you're going to be or not. And ultimately, again, it comes back to going back to my values. Find a solution. You could be down. You could be down there as like a dinosaur, and your attitude's a bit like, ugh. But you've got all this potential. If you just change your attitude, you could be flying.
Yeah. Brilliant. So let's get into training. How do you plan your training sessions?
I'll tell you. Oh yeah, sorry, I've made a few notes here. I feel like Chris Whitty asking for a next slide. So how do you plan training? So 2 parts. So your pre-season, which is in a block of 6 to 8 weeks. Physically, tactically, they're the 2 things that we try and work together. And then competition. And then we kind of do that month to month. So this is how I plan training, how we plan training at Nottingham Forest. And that's, I suppose, a quick weekly schedule of kind of what we do. So if we've got 4 games in a month, they're all on a Sunday, it's absolutely perfect. We review the game on a Monday, so that's staff individually. Obviously, no one's paid, and there's no one's in full time, so everyone does that on their own laptop, phones, whatever it might be. Tuesday night is the session, usually a little bit of post game, and then we go into the week. Wednesday is kind of the start of pre-game planning, so I kind of take a lead on that and deal with that. Thursday session, and then Friday we finalise the pre-game and send out some of the little bits that we'll go into later on a Friday. If there's 3 games in a month, and like one of them is a midweek, which we get in the National League because for whatever reason the scheduling is never great. So you could get a 3-game month, but yet you play Sunday, Thursday, Sunday, and that's all you've got over a 28 or 30-day period. We try and cram that week into like 3 days. So if we play on the Sunday, that 5-day schedule, we try and cram sort of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday with 1 session. And then if we've played on the Thursday, we try and cram that schedule in again between Thursday night and Sunday, but with no session and just a game. So it's, when it is those weeks, the missus really loves it, as you can imagine. And to be fair, I really love it as well, because it's, getting back from the game, quickly uploading it, doing that. So yeah, it can be a bit of a long one, but it's all good. And then yeah, just a couple of little points really, sort of in terms of analysing the game. We upload it and then go through some of the little bits with it. It takes about 3 to 5 hours to actually analyse it. And then the pre-game stuff it's just ongoing. So we'll see what other people know about a certain team or what they're doing, how they're doing it, and you know how it is when you're speaking to coaches and players and stuff like that. So that's kind of how we plan it. This is something that we have that the club brought in under Lee Billiard, who is now at Bristol City. This is an app called Fit for 90, and we use this for player health and basically just to track the health and well-being. This is kind of what the players see and how we kind of see it. So we can go in and we can look at the players and see where players are, how they're doing. And if it's a red, then it means that they're probably not ready to train. Amber and yellow and obviously green is ready to train. And then the players can see this little dash here. So if a player's reporting an injury, they can say like, the hips here are aching or doing whatever. And then we'll get a ping on our phones to say, right, Lindsay's hips are killing her. She needs to ease off this, that or the other, whatever it might be. And so we can kind of go and assess and analyze, whatever we need to do from the players there. And then we also have GPS, which helps us with the training as well. And obviously it records everything that you can kind of see there. I'm a very simple and basic man, so that's kind of what I come up with. It doesn't look fancy like that. I leave that to Marcus as a sports scientist. He can do all that. But for me, I like this bit. So this is something that we constantly try and give to the players is the meters per minute, the MPM. One thing that we always try and work towards is like an international standard. So we've managed to get the meters per minute for certain particular thresholds that England would work to. So these 3 games here were 6 minute long. And when England apparently train at 6 minutes, their meters per minute is 130. So Lindsay was at, I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt and say 108. She dipped in the second one, and then the third one, she's like shot up to, let's give her the benefit of 123. So that's kind of where we were at in regards to that. Now, obviously, this bit here, 9v9, the session was a 9v9 session. I can't remember if there was any restrictions or what there were, but that might have indicated or dictated, what was happening here. And then obviously this is a little session I have where we set a diamond up and you've got to play through a diamond. So again, she might have been playing as a centre half here and it's kind of low. She might have thought, right, I'm going on a bit of a run. It's hard. So there's different reasons why it can go up and down. And then this is our match average. So we always put our match average on, and then we always like the players to be above it. So the MPM in training is above a match session. Marcus sometimes doesn't like that because of loading and things like that, but he knows all the science for that. And like I say, I'm a very basic man, and I just say work them harder because the footballers, they need to work on that, which goes down like a lead balloon. And yeah, it doesn't really go like that. But if Marcus was on the call, he'd tell you it does. But and then this is a session plan that we have. So again, when I'm saying I'm very basic, this is my basic session plan. So as basic as it looks, it does actually take me a fair old time to sort of come up with this, potentially like sometimes an hour and a half. But that's setting up what we're kind of doing. And then I just send this to the staff. So the staff all get this. They get an individual copy. They can see what we're doing at what particular time. And then again, I like to be planned out in regards to where we are, what we're going to do, and then kind of what people can, where people are. So if like Ando's taking a session or Dan's taking a part, I can then help them out depending on what we've been sort of what they're leading on with that. And then the review session here, I've got to thank Andy Spence, who's now at England at the moment for this, because I was chatting to him on a course and he just kind of said that this is what they do in regards to their review bits, and something that I found really just easy to do and the staff to do in just regards to just a really simple, like, what do you think the quality of the session was? What went well? Could do better? And if there's any follow-ups, and it can just be one thing, like whatever. It'd say like, Andy, the way you blew the whistle was fantastic. Don't blow it so loud to my ear next time. So stuff like that. And then we can move on. But yeah.
Do you find it? Do you have to build time into review? I mean, how important do you find that?
Yeah, I do find that we have to, like, if I don't ask for it or I don't do it, it sometimes doesn't get done. Just purely, I think, because we kind of forget, in regards to you finish the session, you talk about it in the car park, you maybe just ring a couple of people on the way home, whatever it is, and then you get in the next day, stuff happens, as you know, and then you kind of forget to review, and it's kind of the review's almost taken place, you know, through the conversations you have. But we have tried it. We have ran, I would say, I don't know how many sessions we've done this year, but I would say we've only maybe reviewed properly in that format. I'm going to say 4 or 5 where we reviewed it like that. But when we did, it was just good to kind of get people's feedback to see what was happening, because obviously when you're talking, some people don't say, or maybe they're a bit tired or whatever it is. They've got places they need to go. So it has been good when we do it. But when I was speaking to Andy, it was a really, really simple way of getting that review process in.
I just think, just from my own experiences, even back in the skills days, you know, you've delivered loads of sessions. The last thing you want to do is go and write down a load of words on a document. But the times that I have done it, I know it's made me so much better as a coach, because you know you just paid attention to what's gone on, and you do those kind of hot reviews immediately after. Although I tend not to trust them, because I know I've come away from sessions that are buzzing, and you feel it, but then you probably don't pay attention to everything. Or even if it's been a nightmare session and you're frustrated with yourself, it's just important to give yourself a bit of time to kind of calm down and think rationally about it, and then start writing stuff down. But I found finding the time to do it really difficult.
Yeah. I mean, and that's something like, I mean, I'm blessed and fortunate enough to, you know, to call this my full-time job. So, you know, I do get time to review myself, but I think it's for myself with that particular review, that's more for us as a staff to review really and kind of see where we are. But like you've just said there, you've all got things to do, and sometimes you don't have the time to do it. But yeah, you're right. I think once you do review, though, it does really add to that learning as well for yourself as a coach, because ultimately that's where you really sort of, I suppose, condense that little bit of work that you've just done in your own mind, of this worked well, this didn't work well, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or whatever it might be. So
yeah, definitely. So let's go into a bit more detail around the session itself. So like, how do you coach, how do you get across the information that you need to get across?
Yeah, so I think, again, one of the biggest things one of the huge pluses that came out of the time with the skills program, and I don't know if you agree, James, was practice design. So those little session plans we had, where you had to get the little designs on the right hand side of the session plan, and this, that, and the other. Like, for me, when I look back now, I don't use that session plan, as you've seen, but just the way that I would draw a session myself on a little piece of paper before I write the session plan. And thinking about, again, constraints, maybe whatever it might be, a phase, a small-sided game, a unit, whatever we're kind of working on. I think that for me is that's the biggest benefit that a coach can have of how you get across what your message is. How do you design your practice, and what does that practice eventually look like? You know, go on.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more in terms of all the work that we've done over the years, and if we want really skillful, and like you've talked about, tactically flexible players who find solutions, so linking everything together, the way you design that session can really allow that to happen. That's not to say you can't get in there and coach, but if you get the practice game right, then actually there might be an opportunity to say less.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yes.
So yeah,
absolutely. And yeah, as you can tell, I can talk till the cows come home. So for me, that's probably it helps me out, and probably helps the players, that I don't talk as much if I get that right. When I was looking at this, one of the things that I wrote down here was probably the bigger question to ask is, do you know what you want it to look like? Or how you want it to look, sorry. So how do you want the session to look? How do you want the game, that particular practice to look? And then the next question off that is, can the players perform it? Which goes back to, I think, to your question before, James, of do your principles change? And if the players can perform it, then it's just a case of cracking on. The practice design might work and it'll be great. If the answer's no to that question of can the players perform, it's then probably a strand goes off to sort of whatever and says, like, right, what do the players need? Do they need a little bit of individual work before that particular practice? Is it maybe a little bit of unit work if you're working with defenders or midfielders? Or is it just a little bit more time? So you could run the practice, but then like we've just said, where I was saying about working in with kids of under 14s or whatever age group it is, you might be able to run it and then maybe run it 3 or 4 weeks later, and I bet you they'll do it better just because they've had time. The brain has gone through it once, so they know what's going to come, and then they'll do it better. So I think that for me when I was looking at this was that question of how do you want it to look, and then can the players perform it? And then if it's yes, perfect. If it's not, right, then each individual player, then what have you got in for them? A couple of other bits for me is obviously a whistle. I use a whistle all the time, and I've only started using that in the last when I went to Oxford, actually, is where I adopted a whistle. Before that, it was just a big shout. But my sort of point when people say, like, why do you use a whistle, is, well, the referee uses a whistle. So we want players to stop when the referee stops, because if there's a stopping play, I want the referee to blow a whistle. I want them to stop, and I want them to say, right, okay. So I use a whistle for that point. Also saves my voice, because that can get quite hoarse. One of the other bits is walkthroughs. I've kind of adopted that over maybe the last 2-3 years, and that's probably come from my exposure to to NFL, so American football. When I've looked at a few of the documentaries on Amazon Prime, and when I started watching the NFL and really got into that, the walkthroughs that those guys do, I think there's great value in what we can do. But again, this is kind of senior football. I would imagine if you're a 12-year-old kid, a walkthrough would be the worst thing in the world, because you just want to play football. And ultimately, yeah, I agree with them. But yeah, the seniors, there might be something that we want to do, particularly the kind of, we need 3 points against Wolves a week on Sunday. So we want to work on a set play. So we're going to walk it through. And I would imagine that, a 28-year-old Lindsay Harkin, I think I've given her a few years there, but 20, like that, she's gonna be happy with that. But I would imagine an 8-year-old would go, oh, yeah, all right. Stop, stand still. I do use that, and I think, James, we spoke about it a little bit. I know you mentioned it, and that's why I wrote it down. Where you're saying that I don't know whether you don't use it or you've kind of not used it as much, but for me, I use it a fair bit, but I don't use the shout like the old days. It's just to blow the whistle, to just, again, in regards, which goes back to the referee, if you blow it and it's there and everyone stops, if you can get the picture right, it is, I personally believe it's a really good tool for everyone to kind of go, just look at what is it set up now. Everyone is in a position we want. Like, that's good, that's good, that's good. And I still like it as a bit of a tool to use. Whiteboards and visuals, PowerPoints, YouTube clips. I send them out quite often to players. If I'm in the office and something's happened. I sent one recently. There was a bit from Robbie Pringle and Farrell Williams. I sent that to all the midfielders and got some good feedback from the girls on that. So it was, little things like that. You just send them out and again, just send a little message into them and say, look, have a little look at this, see what you think. And then lo and behold, just talk to the players. Yeah. I mean, it might be fascinating to some, but, if you just speak to them and see what they're thinking, see how they're feeling and seeing what do they think about this? Like, if we're actually to play centre midfield, how do you feel? What's happening? Like, are you used to having like half the pitch behind your head? They might have always played as fullback. So then when they've fullback, they've got all the pitch in front of them. But then if you stick them in the centre of the pitch and they've never done it and half the pitch is behind them, whoa, you're asking for all sorts of trouble. So again, just speaking to the players a little bit. And I keep saying it, but this is all for the seniors. This is what I'm going through at the moment with the senior players, because the Bills aren't played with war stories. So we need to make sure that we're winning on Sundays. So some of this won't necessarily work with maybe an under 12, and I wouldn't expect to, see like an 11-year-old, right, stop, stand still, hold it there, kids. Right, we're going to walk through this set play now because I want you to get your head on that, lad, and stuff like that. So, you've got to take what works and what doesn't. But yeah, they're the bits really for me that that kind of I use to get across, really.
I think there's some really valuable stuff on there, though, to consider across the game for coaches in terms of, thinking about players and the different learning styles that players are going to have, and considering that actually some players are going to really value the sort of picture and seeing it in action. Other players are going to need a bit of explanation with a whiteboard, or they might need you to throw some bibs on the floor or put some cones out to show something. They might need to see that in order to understand the practice. And it's really important to understand that your group of players are going to have those different needs. And within one group, high performance or grassroots or junior football, there'll be different sort of ways in which players take on board that information. And in terms of the intervention and learning styles as well, the stop, stand still, but also the sort of fly-by coaching and the word in the ear while the practice is going on as well. It's all really valuable tools to use with your players.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know we spoke about it, Andy, in terms of I'm probably guilty of not doing the stop, the stop and stand still enough. I probably should. It probably would help the players. But I don't know. Maybe it's just the experiences that I've had.
Yeah. I think, and I get that. For me personally, I think when I was on my A license, some of the coaches that were on there, Steve Rutter was one of my tutors, and the detail that he could go into on a stoppage within like 30 seconds was unbelievable, and it blew my mind in regards to that kind of coaching. And then ultimately as well, it's more in regards to like the not necessarily right stop stand still because you've done this wrong. It was more stop stand still. Take a second and look at the picture around you more than maybe a coach intervention of right. Your first touch, James, was awful. I need you to do this. I need you to get like it is in the old level 2 and the old UEFA B, like it was. I think I would say that's probably how I use it a little bit more than. Well, I would never say that I've ever really coached like that, but yeah, I do use that of like, right, just have a little look and see what we need to do. I mean, yeah, there is times, and some of the staff on here that'll be able to tell you there is times where I'll stop it and blow the whistle and let them know what I'm thinking, which usually or sometimes isn't positive, like, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair enough. It's loud. Comment in the chat box. It's loud. So how do you link to match days? So because it's all great doing these training sessions.
Yeah.
How do you join the dots?
So I suppose three points that we've got there. So the physical data, the principles of play that we've obviously spoke about, and then a game plan, and we change that sort of game to game. So these are the physical data that we have that we have from last season. So obviously from what was it, August to March when we were null and voided. So these were the data that we've got for each position. So centre back, centre midfielders, centre attacking midfielder, full back, and then forward and winger. And last season we played with a 4-3-3. And this season we're playing with a back three. So I would imagine that data is going to change this season. But ultimately, I think data, all it really does, it tells us what's happened. Not necessarily how it's going to happen or why it's happened. It just tells us what's happened and gives us a picture of kind of what we've seen. So myself and Marcus went through this in the first lockdown, and we managed to get, well, I say myself, I'm giving myself a lot of credit there. Marcus went through this, sent me the email, I'm presenting it to you. So Marcus went through this and got the data for it, but he's a top guy, and I'll buy him a pint socially distanced when I'm allowed to. But yeah, and that, like I say, it was really good for us. And when we went into this season, we can use this data to kind of say, right, this is what we want from a forward, this is what we want from a winger, when we're playing in a 4-3-3. But then we went and changed it to make his life harder because we're now got a back three. So we'll get a new set of data kind of towards the end of the season. So we can change what we're looking for in games or in training. Obviously, I showed you the stuff from Lindsay of what we're trying to look for potentially. Also, like I said, we have the principles of play. And this is the game against Derby that you saw earlier. So I send this out on a Friday. I send this out to the players, and it's usually 3 or 4, no more, of little things that we want to kind of see. So this principle is just a high press. We wanted to be aggressive. We played with a back three, as we were showing there. So we were always going to be potentially exposed down the wings, but we wanted to kind of play out here because we thought that they would try and play into these areas in like the middle three, the centre backs, the full backs as much as they can. So we wanted to be aggressive. And as you saw in the clip, their forward actually dropped into the middle of the pitch, and Lindsay followed her all the way out to end up getting the press on there. So, if nothing, I can say that they've read it, although they might just be really good players and they've just done it anyway. If the centre back weren't pressing, just a little sort of point of that if the centre forwards aren't pressing. So if that wasn't happening, we needed to get a sort of tighter as a unit. And the opposite wing back needed to almost get back into a position that would make it almost a back four. So we didn't want to be exposed if they had good possession. And then against the long ball, if it is against the long ball and we don't, the press isn't quite right, whatever it might be, she might have lo and behold step over and got round our centre forward, and I don't know, Roz is doing whatever she's doing up front, and then they've played it in the channel. We've got to get across and adjust. And the biggest thing that I'll constantly shout again is just hold them up, match the feet. Two things that I'm constantly shouting in regards to, especially when you're down here in this area here, the red zone. Don't dive in, stand up and defend. I hate to see defenders go into ground, especially in that final third, when there's no need to. Just stand them up and get into good defensive posture, which goes back to the first clip of Sophie Tudor against Sunderland, of delaying the attack, denying the space and waiting for the cavalry to arrive. So these are the things that we'll just sort of send to kind of put things into perspective. Then when we played Sunderland, the game that you've seen, this was the game plan that we had. So compact defensive shape, clear anything in behind us or down the sides. We obviously, the clip that you've seen, it wasn't really in behind us. Sophie was in a good defensive position and held us up. And then one of the things that we were trying to look at that time was whenever the ball went out, reset, refocus, restart. So the ball would go out for, say, a throw-in. We would get ourselves set. If it's our throw-in, where do I need to be? Right, focus on what's going to come, and then we're going to restart the game with a throw-in or the goal kick. And we lost the game 1-0, so it worked really well. But that kind of gives you an insight into kind of the ideas behind it, and all the stuff that you've just seen. We would probably try and work on at some point in the training, due to the session plan, whatever it is, during that week. And we try and put something in place, in terms of a practice design or a practice that would bring out a constant aggressive press, or it would bring out an occasion where we haven't got good possession and we have to deal with the centre half driving out the ball. So we need to be nice and compact. So that's kind of how we get that across.
I was going to say, so if you've got those examples of the scenarios that you were thinking you were going to be faced with, is that where you then used your walkthroughs or your constraints and stuff? Yeah,
absolutely. Well, the reset, refocus, restart, that was something that I got from it was actually when I was at university. It was from an American football team, a college out in America that did a whole study on how an offensive line would set up, and their mantra was the 3 R's: reset, refocus, restart. And I can't remember the paper for love nor money now, and I can't remember the team either, but that was the mantra was reset, refocus, restart. And it was something that I've been speaking with for a few weeks, and we thought we'd try it against Sunderland of bringing it in. And did it work? Well, we lost 1-0. I don't know whether it was down to reset, refocus, restart. Probably just the fact that, they scored a bloody good goal. But it's kind of we try and walk through that. That was something that we did actually sort of walk through. When there was a throw in, I'd stop it and then just say, right, this now is where we're resetting. The refocus is like in between there, getting yourselves in position. So Lindsay as a centre half would drop off, or the winger would go higher, and then the restart is obviously the throw in, and we get going again. But obviously it's working between. American football is very stop start. Our football is flowing, it goes out, it can come in really quickly, so you can't necessarily get a reset, refocus, restart. So again, it's just trying things out. If we'd have won 1-0, I'd have told you that's why it was because of that, but we lost, so it wasn't.
So it's interesting. So you lost that game, and I suppose there'll be other games where things don't go to plan. Mm-hmm. What do you do?
So if it isn't, the thing that I've learned over my time is to fall back onto something that you know. So the values again. So why is it happening? So what was happening in front of us? So if I think back to the Sunderland game, this might sound really basic. Sunderland used the weather really well that game. It was absolutely, the wind was horrendous. And in the first half, we just didn't really get to grips with that wind at all. We didn't use it to our advantage. It became a bit of a disadvantage because players were coming short for the ball because they didn't want to run in behind, even though Sunderland were quite high. So it was just looking at like, right, why is that happening? Eventually, you've got to trust yourself, as in the decisions you're making, or you've got to trust your teammates and the staff to come up with something that's going to work. So if you've got Bex Rayner, you could just give her the ball and she might score. Or who's on the bench that you can potentially kind of go, right, what are they going to bring to the team? What are we going to do? One of the things for me that I always kind of focus on really is, and this is kind of, again, no evidence for this whatsoever, but if you watch a football match, the first 20 minutes of most football matches are just erratic, especially at the top level men's probably more than women, but top level men, it's erratic. The players are going everywhere, they're buzzing, and not maybe at the moment because football's boring without fans, but look, who would have known it'd be boring without fans? So when the fans get back in, you'll see the first 20 minutes, they come flying out the blocks, and you can't tell what's head and tail. After 20 minutes, all that excess energy's gone, and things start to settle down. You see some patterns, you kind of see what formations people are in. So for me, I always kind of wait 15, 20 minutes to see what's happening, and then at that point kind of assess. This is in the first half. Now, obviously, you could be 1-0 up, 2-0 down, 4-3 up, whatever it might be. So it can vary. And then obviously, second half, it's going back to that. If you're 1-0 down against Sunderland, we were 1-0 down with, what was it? Can't remember how long it was, but yeah, we were 1-0 down in that game and lost the game 1-0. But the two examples that I've wrote down here is one positive and one negative. Is against West Brom just before the lockdown. We were losing 2-1. And when I'm looking back in that game, and when I thought about it, thinking about this tonight, was I made the changes too late. We were looking at the bench and thinking, we could bring this player on and that player on, and and there's that kind of conflict going on in your head of who potentially could come off. So there's all that needs to happen in the moment. And ultimately, we didn't have any momentum in the game. So I don't think it would have mattered when who came on at what particular point. Sorry, I don't think it would have mattered who came on, but it would have potentially mattered if we'd have made it a little earlier, maybe 5 or 10 minutes earlier, because that momentum could have shifted in our favour. I think we made the changes with like 12 and 10 minutes to go, and it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for the girls to come on to even affect the game, and the momentum of that game had gone. Whereas when we played Hull, we were 2-0 down. There was 35 minutes or so to go, 36, whatever it was. And I changed 2 centre midfielders, brought 2 midfielders on, took 2 off, and we ended up drawing the game 2-2. But that was just wave after wave of attack, and we had the momentum in that game. And when we made the changes, it didn't dip. If anything, the momentum increased, probably because fresh legs, all that kind of stuff, enough time, obviously half an hour. So I think momentum is a big one in regards to if the game plan isn't working. Where's the momentum in the game? Do you have it? Do they have it? How can you get it back? Do they keep shelling it into like the stand, and then you've got to deal with that, which is just a momentum killer. So you've got to do that. But ultimately, it comes back to sort of the 5 values, really. So, asking why, asking yourself why, not necessarily turning around and berating the staff because that's going to get you nowhere, or the players themselves, but, just having those conversations. Trusting yourselves. Can we find a way? Can we make sure that we've got the momentum? That helps. Don't give up, and again, just love it. I think at the moment when we were playing West Brom, I wanted the world to like just eat me up because it was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to lose this game. I think that brought West Brom. I think it was level on points or just above us. I can't remember now, but it was just like, oh my god. And then you just kind of see where it goes. But that's, I suppose, a whirlwind into what goes on in my head when I'm trying to be calm on a sideline and the arms folded.
So in terms of that then, after the sort of, sticking at it and trying to find a way not to give up, and what comes next then? What's the next stage? What happens post-match? What's the next piece of the puzzle?
So then post-match stuff. So we're fortunate again to use a company called InPlay. They upload the footage on a Sunday night. Their analysts deal with like individual clips and stuff, so they just clip and cut the footage up for us. So the players get individual clips on like normally a Monday morning, sometimes Monday afternoon, and then the analysis sort of session or bit comes on a Tuesday, and then I usually put a presentation together on a Tuesday sort of afternoon for Tuesday afternoon for the Tuesday night session, really, in regards to the post game stuff. So again, it's kind of a 48-hour period, but then once that's done, again, it's not been a rule. I think it's just something that's happened. It's almost like that presentation or that little bit of analysis is almost like that's the cut off. That game's done now, whether it's win, lose, or draw, and it's like this is what worked well, this is what didn't, and can we kind of move on from there? Obviously, we mentioned about InPlay. This is the company we use currently. This is how it looks, just how it looks when we get onto the website, really. And then these are some of the bits. So this was the game against Loughborough last season. and this was just some of the bits that we can get. Now, I'd love to see in-play do this, but I sat and did this, and kind of usually do that. But we've got some great staff. Dan Collett and stuff helps us out as well, and I think he's going to take a bit more of a lead in that this season and stuff. So, I've got some great people that help us out with that. But these are the little bits that we get, and ultimately gives us an idea of where we want to go to, really. So the accurate passes is the biggest one for us. Can we try and get that towards 75%? Obviously, we were close to 80 on that game, which was great. Possession obviously helps if you've got more of the ball, more chance. 35 penalty area entries, which is great. And then one of the biggest ones for us is duels. So first half and second half. So we won 16 and 15 in there, whereas Loughborough only won 9-11. So we had momentum, and something that we talk about a lot is a momentum shifter, and that very much that kind of duels won is huge. It's huge for us. If we can get those high, we're normally in a good chance of winning. But a lot of you would probably say that's common sense, and I wouldn't argue against it, because it's finding a way to win, isn't it? And then obviously, if you've got more key passes than the other team, as was shown in this game, you've probably got a chance of winning as well. So there's a couple of common sense things in there, but some people need to see it wrote down, don't they, before they believe you.
I think that's the thing there in terms of the power of stats. I mean, I've tried to implement. I don't have the technology for where I coach, so I literally stick a GoPro to a ladder, prop the ladder up, and I've got the GoPro going, and reset it at half time. But then I have to watch it back. But there was nothing more powerful than when I went through it. It took me forever, but I went through it and I counted every single pass. And I was sat there and I went back to the girls and I said, right, listen, there was 4 occasions in that match where you made 3 or more passes. The rest of it was 1 or 2. That wasn't good enough. And when they saw that, they thought, wow, and really powerful.
I think that for me is probably why I don't mind doing it, and why you don't mind sitting and doing it, really, because as well as seeing little clips that people have done or not done, you can also get this in terms of, how many successful passes do you have, how many unsuccessful, and then each little one, when you're going through it, you can almost look back and you can analyze it till the cows come home ultimately, but is it going to make a difference? And like you say, it's just so powerful when you can show them that, and it does make such a difference. You're only talking about it for say 5 or 10 minutes, 15 minutes tops, but it is so powerful for them to see. And then this was something that Amy Page, the goalkeeping coach, and Marcus again Sports Science worked together on, and I'll give full credit to Amy for these little bits here. She came up with this with Asia in regards to some of the percentages and stats and everything that they got. But for me, when we were looking at it, this was again in kind of I think it was the first lockdown again. This was, if the sort of completed collections and 1v1s that Asia's getting is up with 90% plus, you can't have much more from a goalkeeper from that. And then I think there was a couple of occasions last season where Liv had covered and cleared the lines, which helped her out and probably was in this percentage here. But some of the stuff was really good. And then when we're looking at one of the big points here was goals conceded. So 29% came from the right hand side. And one of the points for me with that was, I think throughout last season we had 3 different right backs, whereas we only had two left backs, but it was like first half of the season was one, and then second half was the other until March. Whereas in the season we had 3 different right backs, and it chopped and changed throughout pre-season. Then we had one, then she left, then we had another, then she left. Well, actually she was pregnant, she didn't leave, but had to leave. And then and then we had the third one. So some of these bits you can kind of look back and go, oh, maybe that was why we didn't have consistency in those positions. But again, full credit to Amy Page for this. I can't take full credit for this at all. But it just goes to show when you've got good staff, doesn't it? That love what they're doing. So no, it's all good.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to this question now that I know there's some staff on the call and maybe some players, because they can confirm this. What are your strengths and weaknesses as a coach?
So I think, and the other bit was obviously, is it shaped my philosophy? I think that I don't think they've shaped my philosophy or the values. I think one of the biggest things, this came from a coach that I knew from many years ago, and he made this remark of, you're on trial every night. So every night, every game, someone's always going to judge. However many people are on this call now, and however many people watch it when they're recorded, are going to watch and judge and have their opinion and say on it. And ultimately, that's fine, because that's the way that life is. But one wrong word or an ill-timed remark or something, and I'm going to hold my hand up and all that kind of stuff, I probably toe the line a little bit because I try and make jokes, which we'll get to in a second. You're always on trial, but for me, I'm always doing it for the right reasons, and I'm always trying to, do it to hopefully make people better. They're the three strengths for me. I think organisation, try being as organised as I can be. That's I think probably from my own busy mind in regards to how I work. If I'm not organised, I'm very much like, right, I don't really know where's my keys, like whatever it is. But if I'm organised, I know where I'm at. That helps my stress levels. Enthusiasm, passion, love for the game, or whatever, you can put down to that. I think that's another one. And then the resilience, I think if I was to sit here and list all the jobs that I haven't got, it would blow your mind, the amount of interviews that you go for. And ultimately, you only ever really get one or two or 4 or 5. But the amount of job interviews and stuff that you go through in your life that kind of is a setback is huge. And I think there's I'm not trying to say that there's a small violin here, but for me, that's something that I like to think is a good strength of mine, that regardless of a setback, it'll always come back to those values of like, just keep going. Yes, I'll be annoyed for a day or two, but ultimately you go to bed, you wake up, the sun shines the next day, and life moves on, and it is what it is. You sort of try and work it as best you can, and hopefully you've got a good family and good people around you that can help you with that. And then the weaknesses, the players will definitely tell you I'm not patient. I want things done yesterday, and if they're not done, especially from the players themselves, it's kind of like, obviously my grammar and spelling, isn't great, and then obviously trying to get a laugh, and hopefully everyone's on mute, so I know that you're all rolling around in raptures right now because that's a spelling joke, because the S and the P, the E and the P are the wrong way, and obviously I'm trying to get a laugh. So they're the weaknesses, and hope, I would imagine that's been rang true again because I've tried to do that a few times tonight. I know the missus is upstairs rolling her eyes, so she's going to live with me as well. So it's they're the weaknesses, to be honest. But that patience is one. I have next to no patience, very very little, especially when it comes to football and stuff, which I probably should do because I'm not a very good footballer. Well, I'm all right, but not as good as some of the players we have. But I think that just comes back to your standards and your mindset. But they're definitely, and in all seriousness, the grammar and spelling, I do have to sort of double check, get somebody to check it. And if you see an error, that's probably because I've not had anyone check it. I'm probably dyslexic, but I've never had it diagnosed. And then trying to get a laugh, that's just the way I am. I think it's probably, if the psychologist here, he'll probably say I'm trying to hide something, which I probably am. Always trying to make the crack a joke and that sort of thing.
Why do you see that as a weakness?
Why do I see it as a weakness?
Yeah, because I think I see that as a strength, that you're trying to add humor to a situation. So why do you see it as a weakness?
I think if you want my serious answer, I don't know if I do see it as a weakness, but I put it on there to get the laugh. I think I don't really have any weaknesses, James. You know what I mean? No, in all seriousness, I don't know. I suppose I don't necessarily see any of those as weakness. Is not having patience a weakness? I don't necessarily think it is. Because ultimately the patience comes from the fact that, I have a particular set of standards that I want people to reach. And when you work with people like a Bex Rayner, Lindsay Harkin, even some of the players that you might not have heard of, like Georgia Hewitt or Katie Middleton we've mentioned there, they've got so much potential and talent when you actually work with them and when you get to know them as people, that it frustrates me when people kind of just turn up and just go, we'll just do this, or we'll just go through the motions. And I think because of, my one of my best mates, best man at a wedding, he now works for Rangers as an analyst, as a scout, sorry. And he was a professional footballer too. He was 18, got released from Sunderland, and I seen what he went through, and he was one of the most talented players I've ever seen. And yet he didn't make it. It's kind of like, well, when you've got this opportunity, just give it what you can. And I think that's the same for myself as coaching as well. Like, you've got to give everything all the time. And like the comment there, sort of, you're on trial. You're on trial every night. And like you just said there, you've asked the question there. Why do I see that as a weakness? If I'm being really honest, I hate the questions of like, what do you see as your weaknesses when you're in interviews? What do you see as your weakness? I'm always going to say spelling and grammar. That is my one big weakness is spelling and grammar. I'm awful. And like I said, genuinely, I think I might have dyslexia, something like that, because it is so bad. Like Lindsay will pull me up during team meetings all the time. She'd be like, why have you spelled that like that? I'm like, Lindsay, sometimes words hurt. So, and probably that's why I try and get a laugh, because it gets around that point. But yeah, it is. It's ultimately, I don't think any of those things though have shaped my philosophy. They are me. That's how I am. And that's it's kind of what you get. I think if this was a proper interview, I probably wouldn't crack jokes in a proper interview. But you'd have to ask the people that interviewed me. They'd probably say, no, you did, but we give you anyway because we felt sorry for you.
I think I look at all of them and I think, well, actually, they could go either way. Like organization, I've seen people that are really organized, that they're inflexible, they can't adapt.
Yeah.
There's passion, but then there's a bit, there's just like a bit, maybe sometimes too much passion, maybe it clouds judgment stuff. So yeah, I think there's all of those could go.
Yeah, I suppose the other one is how you interpret those words as well. Yeah, you could I've used the word love there, and as British people, we always get a little bit, love. I only say that to the wife when the lights are off. Do you know, so I'm putting that in there, but that's because I genuinely love what I do. So it's it I suppose comes down to how you interpret those words, doesn't it? Really.
Definitely. So what would your 5 top tips then be for the people who are listening?
Keep going back to it. I think they right now these are the things for me. Ask why, and again, I've put it at the top of this. Get me on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. Not Facebook. Does anyone use Facebook now? My email and ask why. If there's any questions you want to know, trust what you're doing. Trust the journey you're on. If you're just starting out, things aren't going to go great, but hopefully it'll help you in the long run. Find solutions. Don't mourn about what you're going to do. It's ultimately the cards you've been dealt. There'll be a reason for it, and you've got to try and find a way to work around it. At the time, you probably think, oh my God, but you'll eventually the cloud will disappear, and hopefully you'll get that. You'll find what you need to do, and never give up. Just keep going, and obviously, just love every second.
Brilliant. Well, that is the end of the CPD. I want to thank you for your insights there, because I've written down a few things as you're going through, and I'm sure I'm going to be taking away a few things to try with my team, and I'm hoping people in the chat have also taken things away. We're going to be on for a little bit longer. If people want to ask questions, either in the chat box or if you're brave enough to raise your hand, feel free. If you just want to get off because it's now 20 to 9, you're more than welcome to. I don't know if Adam, Mark, or Andy, you want to say anything before we wrap up?
I think from me, James, Andy, a massive thank you from the County FA. Delivered with passion, absolute passion. I think that's come very clear across. And I think the football club is in good hands. I just got one question in terms of, obviously the club as a whole, as with Forest, have tried to bring the women's section a little bit closer into the men's. Is there any crossover in terms of patterns of play, formations, or anything that the men's side asks for you guys?
No. I've been privy to the stuff that the academy work on, and kind of the little detail that they have. I say a little detail, it's a lot. If you've seen the stuff that they work on, it's fantastic. To be fair, very much. I think they're a Category 2 academy at the moment, but personally, I think, and it's not just me saying it, probably should be a Category 1 with the quality they produce and the detail that they have. But no, there's no direct link in regards to the club have said we want this from you. I think which has been nice, and it was one of the questions I asked when he interviewed was kind of how does the club want to be, what do they want from me in regards to the coach of a philosophy or this, that, and the other. And obviously at the time the general manager was Lee Billiard, and he was kind of like, we're here for a fresh approach, if you like, and the stuff that you can bring to the club, and how can you kind of work, because they've gone through a sort of a transitional period. The last, obviously it's probably gone longer now with coronavirus, but the last sort of 2 years, 3 years. So it's slowly building, and hopefully it's just going to keep getting better and better. But ultimately, yeah, some of the stuff that the academy have used, I've used and looked at and adapted myself, as every good coach is. We're all thieves, so I've took a bit and ultimately, yeah, but it's not been directed by the club. But the crossover is that. I mean, I work from the City Ground, full-time employee. I don't think there's many in the women's game, especially our level, that they're a full-time employee, oversee the whole infrastructure of the women's team and the organisation. So I suppose from that side of things, all the off-field stuff, Nottingham Forest is as good as any club that I've worked at. That especially for women's football and the whole club supporting the women's programme.
No, brilliant. They're a shining light to be fair for us in terms of bringing it closer and closer across, because obviously for years and years it's been separate, hasn't it? So, yeah. Brilliant, excellent. Adam, I don't know if you've got some questions. I'll switch the record off just in case some of the questions people don't want to hear too much about, or you don't want to answer. You can answer them differently, can't you? So I'm just going to shut the recording out. Just give us 1 second, and I'll pass Adam back over.
No worries.